Greetings, greetings, everybody. Please come back, come back. Greetings, greetings, greetings. We are back up on the air. Okay, great, great, great. Greetings, 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 everybody. At Cairo, at Cairo, at Cairo. I wish you all strength, good health, and abundance of wealth. Because, like always, the road is open. Because every day is a ritual for growth and the opportunity to build and create. We build by building that's connected with like-minded people and moving in a similar direction. So, as we was previously delayed, we are here. And as we were saying, we want to give it some time for some people to come. And Cairo, with that, thank you for letting me know that everything wasn't moving properly. I think it wasn't just picking up the mic at the time, but we good now. So that's great. I share. So at Cairo, I wish everyone is doing well on this day and this week. Wish everyone is carrying that calabash of Ajiga beginning of the week, moving with that abundance, moving within that wealth. As I was saying, we are the masters of our destiny. We are the architects of our future. We fully equipped to deal with all our challenges. We build out of chaos and we create out of destruction. So when the warrior priesthood, when people would start hearing of the warrior priesthood, a lot of times they were saying like, so what are y'all going to war with? What is, being that the spirit is, these things are spiritual, it shouldn't be any war like mentality involved. But what they fail to understand is that for there to be spiritual abundance, there must be social abundance as well. But they didn't understand that when we were saying that we are warriors, we are at war with poverty. They didn't understand that when we were saying that we are the warrior priesthood, we are in war with that impoverished mindset. Greetings, everyone. Greetings, everyone at Cairo for finding it and getting back on. Like, share, follow, message. Don't be scared to message in the chat. Let me know that you're there. Let me know that you hear me so we can continue moving forward. But they didn't really understand about being at war with poverty and being at war with that impoverished mindset, because somehow it's some type of ideal that's propagated that for us to be spiritually sound, for us to be spiritually grounded, that we have to, suffer in this world. We have to go through things in this world that's going to put us to the fire. So therefore we can be successful in the next. So when we say that we are warrior priests of the warrior priesthood, we saying that we are at war with that analogy, that for us to have spiritual abundance, it has to manifest as well socially. It has to manifest as well in our everyday lives, because we never want to stop difficult things from happening, right? We never going to stop those things from happening. So when we say that we build out of chaos and we create out of destruction, we saying that we are turning poverty into prosperity. We are turning lack into abundance. We are turning despair into opportunities, because the only way that someone can get us to see things that not And our full potential is for us to think shallow about ourselves and our physical selves, our social lives, and they try to convince us just to think in these spiritual terms. So we say our emotional maturity is our powerfulest weapon. We say Abaru Boye, Ifanina, great, that's great. So we say our emotional maturity is our most powerfulest weapon. We say that no, our confidence is our strongest weapon, and our emotional maturity is unparalleled because we know that when we look at having the confidence and that emotional maturity, those are spiritual forces that the Orishas, particularly as Shu, have been the smallest Risha, but the greatest. It's eschew confidence and understanding what's going on, what's moving, and how these forces moves for him to able to achieve, be the most powerful as well as the smallest. So we able to say that we don't look for trouble, but if we don't anticipate trouble, but if it comes, we deal with it decisively because we are the warrior priesthood. We live life spiritually and physically, and we approach life physically and spiritually. You know, standing on priesthood means what? You know, we have one foot in the spiritual and one foot in the physical. I say why I say Olodumare. So since everyone is present, it is a great thing, a good thing. So we can go ahead and begin. Abaru Boye Bishishe Agbo Ato Soriwo Rifun. Greetings to the owls, Iyanifas, greeting to everyone that is here. If you want to put something in the comments, don't be shy. That's good that everyone, could you please like the video? Yes, I say. Abaru boye bobo awo. Abaru boye bobo awo. Eya boru boye koyaku. Aboru boye bobo awo. So this is a greeting, that a song that we sang, that, and it says that those who greet traditionalists, those who greet others, fellows who within the same culture and tradition, will never die young, but they will live a fulfilling and long life. And it's Aboru Boye Bobo Awo, Aboru Boye Bobo Awo, Iyaboru Boye, Kayuku, Aboru Boye Bobo Awo. So may we all live long life. May we all live a prosperous life. May we all never see our young ones go before us. I say why, I say Olodumare, Ajay, as always, we slew Ajay, good morning to you. Ajay of the ocean, who covers with cloth. Ajay, the one who with rich offerings, we salute you. The young become elders, the elders become youthful again through Ajay. Ajay, you are the one who we greet upon rising. Ajay, you are the one who we greet when we wake. Ajay, you are the one who we call at daybreak. You are the one who let us robe majestically. Ajay, you are the one who continue to adorn us with precious adornments. You are the one who continue to keep us with a sound mind. Ajay is prosperity. Ajay is abundance. You are the one who provide countless royal silks, countless royal garments that shines brilliantly. Ajay, the ancient Orisha, you make the young wise, and you make the elders vibrant. Ajay, let us have you in our pockets, in our purses, in our hands, and not around our necks. Ajay, make our home a place of plenty. Ajay, make our surroundings a place of abundance. You know, the old dude speaks about that first thing in the morning, you greet Aj, you greet prosperity, you greet abundance before you even greet Ifa. It says in Ìrẹtè Alájé. And because it's just important for us to have that abundance mindset, because regardless of what our spirituality, regardless of how much knowledge that we have, if we do not have that social abundance, if we do not have that, we understand, know deep down knowledge that we are more than the naysayers. We are more than the negativity that people maybe try to heap on us. So when we talk about social abundance, it's a connection between social abundance, and it's also a connection between spiritual abundance. And because if you are spiritual abundant, it has to manifest itself. It has to manifest itself in a social perspective. And when we speak about social abundance, we speaking about the ability to be able to, we talking about the ability to be able to have a purpose, understand your purpose, the ability to have fulfillment, and the ability to have satisfaction in this earth, on this world. And so some of the ways people try to distract, some of the ways our jagoons as forces of negative intentions try to distract us from feeling satisfied, distract us from feeling contentment, is by making us feel less than, by making us feel inferior, by making us feel in a way that, we are second class. Because these are the only ways that you can take a person, who chose his destiny before they came, and chose his higher destiny, chose their highest destiny, and get them off balance, is to get them off track. The only way you can get these people off track is to say that, oh, you look different. And because you look different, you're not worthy to be happy. People will come and rob you for your things. And then when they rob you for your things, they will say that, oh, we robbing you for your things, not because we want them. We rob them because we don't like you. But in actuality, they robbing you because they want what you have. They want your abundance, whether it be spiritually abundance, whether it be physically abundance, or whether it be mentally or materially. Because sometimes people feed off us not being happy. Sometimes people can just feed off, just like they can feed off material resources, they can feed off us not being happy. So it can come to a point where we are emotionally stable. So once someone have that emotional instability, when someone who are opposing you, it can make them more emotional stable. It can make them more confident in what they are doing. So particularly when it comes to us as African people, particularly when it comes to us as traditionalists, because it's a lot of things, that components that we can say that moving against us. We call it racism. We call it bigotry. Me, per se, I call it Afrophobia. We teach warrior priesthood. We call it Afrophobia because it's a hate against a culture. It's a hate against tradition. And it's more than a hate against our pigmentation. Because just like you have these people, who say that, oh, you hate them because of their religion. You hate them from the place they from. No one actually never put anything with someone dislike about them on their appearance. Because once you do that, then you begin to relinquish your social abundance. You tend to relinquish those things that bring abundance, because now you looking at your appearance. Listen, we all done looked at the news. We all done seen some Europeans on the news that, when it comes to appearances, descriptions, they'd be like, damn, I can't believe this person have the confidence like they have, because no one never put anything on their appearance when it comes to them. So now if someone can get us to looking at our appearance, to looking at, that, okay, that these people are privileged and we are less than because of our pigmentation, because of our color. And then therefore they can actually compromise us in a spiritual way. That is important to understand, because the fight is on many levels and the fight goes through many different phases. So think about it. Right, they will steal your joy. Exactly. Think about it. The fight goes on many different levels and many different stages. The fight that they was doing in the civil rights era is a different fight than what is taking place now. It could be the same components of just greedy people or greedy sources trying to get something and trying to take. But the fight in which it is revealing itself is different. So, one way to steal that social abundance is to make someone feel is that they less than. Because once they can take your social abundance, they can compromise you spiritually. They can have you self-doubting yourself in their presence. They can have you self-doubting their self even in their rooms, in their board meetings, in their schools. We'll get to the understanding, we'll have this ideal of thought where we'll say, well, we don't want to go to this school. It's too many, they may say, white people there. We don't want to go to this job. It's too many Europeans, Spanish or whatever. So once someone can start taking this social abundance from you, they can compromise you spiritually, because now, guess what? You not saying that, oh, I can deal with them because I'm spiritually strong. You saying, oh, I can't deal with them because they don't like me because of my appearance. And therefore, I don't like my appearance. Besides saying they don't like me because something wrong with them, because they're spiritually neglect, because they are trying to eat me and I won't let them. So it's always different ways to look at things. So in the seventh foundation of the warrior priesthood doctrine, we speak about ancestral identity. And one of the things we say in ancestral identity in this doctrine that we speak about, colorism at times is a form of legal racism, because now we colorizing people based on this English English terminology, and we saying and we just labeling people just this, that, throwing people in specific boxes. And we know that doing these things sometimes it can be derogatory to the one who is not of English originality, because we know what black is in English. That could be a negative word. Black also have those negative undertones, but just to be able to label and throw people in certain categories, is kind of is a low vibration, and is relatively a cheap manner of dealing with things. Specifically when we deal with people, I try to deal with people. Hey, if it's somebody white, that's a European. If it's somebody who's black, they from Africa, that's an African. Just like with Chinese people being yellow, that's the Chinese. They say they used to call them yellow. No, them Chinese. They from China. They from Southeast Asia. Are these people this? Because that's kind of take the sting out this sometimes they want to take you away from who you are. They want to disconnect you from your source. And so now they want to take your territorial inheritance and they want to take your intellectual inheritance. So the last few Odus, the last couple underground spiritual games, matter of fact, all of them, this year period, we've been focusing on that culture of abundance. And today, I'm speaking about the social abundance. And I still want to talk about the Odu. I want to speak about the Odu Ìrẹtè Alájé, which is the Odu of wealth. And in this Odu, it speaks about it was a time when OK is mean mountain in Yoruba, but he was living in the midst of enemies. He was living in a place where everyone around him had want to tear him down, but he was the biggest one standing. So people was coming from all different areas to lower his confidence, to make him feel insecure, and to make him feel like nothing. He was surrounded. The Odu speaks of he was surrounded by hostility, opposition, and people who did not wish him well. Day after day, they say he found himself under pressure from adversaries, from way people look, by the way people handle him to make him feel emotional insecure. So, because all of them wanted to overpower him and bring him down. So the Odu speaks about it was 420 bike holes. And they say 1,460 diggers, which they mean 1,460 bulldozers. So all these things came against OK. Now, OK, let me say it translate into mountain. All these adversaries, they came together to break OK down. They came together to make him feel less than, to make him feel less significant, because they know if they can make him feel less than to tear him down, then guess what? You can't have abundance. You can't have abundance if you don't have a prosperous mind. And we know what it takes to have a prosperous mind. A prosperous mind move in confidence. It is discipline, but above all, it stands on gratitude. Once you start moving in that popish mindset, you lost gratitude because you don't know who you are. Just strictly, but that prosperous mind also is aligned with Ori because it knows our Ori chose the highest destiny. And once we come in that alignment, we will fully meet it. So people, your adversaries, going to come and disconnect you from that destiny. That's the only way they can have power. If they don't disconnect you from that destiny, regardless what happens, what they do, they would never defeat you. Even in your demise, they will be defeated because they can't defeat you if you know your destiny. And if you lean and no one can take that from you. Also, a prosperous mind. Refuse to listen, accept stereotypes, negative representations of themselves. A prosperous mind protects what it allows inside. As we say, all of us chose our highest destiny. But what we feed our minds determine whether or not we're going to reach that spot. And above all, a prosperous mind move with certainty towards that destiny. So even though, OK, it's a mountain, he was strong. He knew that the danger around him was something not to take lightly. Reason how we maybe got into these things, reason how they say some of our ancestors got caught in these situations by taking things lightly, by not taking these things serious when we see opposing forces. But because of this, OK, he went for E5 consultation. He wanted to know, whether he would survive, what would happen when these forces they come against him, whether he will be able to overcome these people talking bad, these people talking negative against him, and whether victory would truly be his in the end. So he want to know all these things. So when he go to the Awo, he go to the Babalawo, he asking the Babalawo what's going on. It seems like the forces or the system is working against me. I know I'm okay, I'm strong, but it's 240. They say it's 420 bikos and 1,460 bulldozers that's trying to take me down. And sometimes that's how I feel. Whether it's family, whether it's work, whether, people go over the top every day. That's how road rage happen, right? We don't all see road rage where people jump out the car and just start firing you looking like, that's crazy. Right now I look at videos from people in New York. It seems like they're in the red ways. Things can be on that edge, on that verge. That's what they mean when they speak about 420. That's when they speak about 420 bulldozers and 420 backhoes and 1,460 bulldozers. So the owl told, okay, that he would indeed succeed, that he would have victory over his enemies. But he said at first, what he must do to secure victory. He said he sure him that his enemies was many. He sure him that the sister was up against him. He sure him that, that the people that may be controlling things in the country may be moving against you in a way. But he said that you will have the final say over your life. He told him first he would need to perpetuate Orisha OK. So Orisha OK is the Orisha of the mountain. OK Risha. OK Risha. And that is a spiritual force that always connected to elevation. And we know abundance. So it's not surprising that Orisha OK is connected into the riches Odu when we talk about Ìrẹtè Alájé, because Orisha OK Risa, which is the Orisha of a mountain, is a force that is connected to elevation. And we know prosperity and abundance is steady elevation mentally, well, regardless of what's going on, what we feel like moving around us. If we feel tripped over, family, work, we know that steady elevation means we will come up spiritually. Things would happen and move. We will get the answers we need to make these things happen. And that is Orisha OK. So he said that he will have resounding victory over all the adversaries. Some of the things, Orisha OK, and the Babalawo, he told him, he said, stop speaking defeat over yourself. Stop living beneath your calling. Stop, at one point in time, before we came to the tradition, and sometimes you can hear people say it, if they in the tradition or not, that you hear people that always, when they speak in the terms, they speak in the things of negativity in their life. That was one of the things that I told him, the Babalawo told him that you must not do. You must stop living beneath your calling. Understand your purpose, because your purpose is going to bring you fulfillment. He said, stop accepting low treatment as normal. If anything else, in Ìrẹtè Alájé, it speaks about us respecting others, but demanding respect for oneself. Don't find yourself getting caught up, and don't let a low treatment of yourself become acceptable. So that's different That's different from the attitude where you say that, you must put up with things. You must turn the other cheek. If one hits you on the other cheek, turn the other cheek. It's always good for us to be humble, but we must never let those things become acceptable. Disrespect become acceptable because that is enemy. That is an enemy with prosperity. Stop allowing people to define your worth. The Bible also told, okay, stop allowing people to define your worth. Stop seeing yourself how others may see us. Because if anything, we talking on a big scale because that's going to compromise us spiritually. When we get into this mentality because of we black this or black that, that's going to compromise our spirituality for the simple fact that now we defining ourselves from someone else's worth. When we say, oh, well, we can't do this because of this. We can't do this because we black. We can't do this because of that. Now we are defining ourselves. We are defining ourselves when we say we can't do something because of our appearance, because that's how someone else tell you they feel. But actuality, they really want what you have. So that's why they telling you that so you can believe it and you can give it to them. And he says you have to feed your ori with truth. You have to feed your ori with discipline. And you have to remember. That's what we call that spiritual remember. So he was advised to make an elbow. So the Bible hour made him understand that this was the path to which his enemies would be subdued, and his position, and his position will be preserved. He said, make this sacrifice. He told him, make this elbow. And everything you feeling inferior, everything with these people coming against you in a way that making you feel yourself underneath in the way you acting and moving accordingly, all these things will be gone. He's saying stop seeking approval from people committed to seeing you as small. Stop seeking approval from people who want to see you as someone who is small. Stop accepting the low social narrative placed on you. How? He said this is going to subdue your enemies. The enemies are subdued when their words no longer shape your identity. The enemies are subdued when the noise or the distractions that they bring cannot stop your elevation. And that can be difficult for people who are empaths because they can walk into rooms and feel energy. That can be a gift and a curse. They can go into places where, they feeling things. But now the distractions, it can become a distraction. And this noise and this energy from others become a distraction, and it can stop us from elevating. So sometimes we have to numb ourselves. I tell people that's where the confidence come at. That's where the confidence come at. It doesn't mean that we are knowing what's going around. Sometimes I was telling someone, you at work, I know these people don't like me. These people don't like me. These people doing this. These people doing that. They're white. They here. They doing this. I say, man, just go in there and look straight ahead. If when you speak to them, if they ain't never speak to you, don't speak to them. If they don't speak to you, don't speak to them. Hold your head high, look straight ahead, and go in there with confidence. That's where the confidence come involves at. But they ain't understand that philosophy. It's not that easy. It is that easy. Once we stop letting the distractions, stop letting how other people around us make us feel, especially when these people don't have our best interests. We ain't, everything. We're not talking about people, who we love. Sometimes we have to understand. Sometimes we could be wrong. But when it's people who we know that does not have our best interests, why do we care? Why does it matter? We have to move with that certainty that we know that those things is not having an effect on us. The enemy comes to do when, guess what? When we not ashamed, when we can have and speak our mind, or when we not intimidated, when someone raise their voice, or when the situation come to a point where, oh, well, but it's too hot for us. But when we just demanded respect, I was speaking to someone the other day, and then we was talking how people can demand respect in so many ways. Some people could demand respect by being rude, by attacking the person. So when you do that, you kind of like accepting accepting that energy. And some people can like demand respect in a light manner. But the thing about people are only going to treat you not by you just dealing with someone carelessly, but people going to treat us the way we show them we want to be treated. So when we see something that is disrespectful, it's simple. Be respectful. It's simple. Um, no need for the extra tone. It's simple. Sometimes people get in these big disputes because it's not even what they saying, but it's the tone. It's the tone. It is the disrespect slight within what people speaking about. But yet, if you're not socially aware, if you don't have that steady elevation, because it's always a steady process. If you don't exactly know what it is, you get caught up and get right up in that fire, unless you can be ashamed. And because, okay, they saying something that's true, so I should accept it. But it ain't about accepting what's true. It's about someone being respectful in what they saying to you. It is about the tone in which someone speaks to us. That is the part that get out of line. So this is the whole process. So okay, comply with all what he been told. He say the enemy is to do when shame no longer, keep you hidden, no longer keep you shy from, expressing yourself and for being you fully in that spiritual sense. So, okay, comply with all that, what he been told. He offered at bowl. He told him roosters, guinea, money. He fed Orisha okay, which is the Orisha of the mountain, and he followed the instructions in full because he had want to put this hostility, he had want to put this self-doubt that was coming from people around him. And so soon after this, they say right after, the enemies who had gathered against OK, you remember the enemies 420 bikos, 1,460 bulldozers. The enemies that had gathered against OK were no longer able to prevail against him. They were saying, once we stop worrying about what people who doesn't mean anything to us, what they think, they would no longer prevail. Once we stop holding on to things that hold us down, guilt. One thing we speak about having self compassion and not self pity, because self compassion always leads to getting over things that happens in the past. So he said, stop holding on to things that held them down. Once we do that, the enemy will no longer prevail. Once we stop speaking negative about ourselves, the enemy, the Ojogun, those forces on the left will no longer prevail. Once we stop accepting low treatment as normal, they will never prevail. Once we stop allowing people to define our worth, listen, we can say, stop allowing people to define our worth. And we can, we know this. We don't let people define our worth. But is this really true in the big scheme of things? Is this really true for us? For centuries in this country, for being under power, they're saying that we are not letting people define our worth by the way we speak. So we have to be careful with empowering those opposing energies that are around us. One of the things, I always talk about, I stopped calling these things white privilege and start calling them Euro nepotism. I stopped calling these things white supremacy and start calling it Euro arrogance, a Euro aggression. Because why give it power? The battle that was fought 50, 60 years ago is not fought the same way now. What some people needed to do to fight the guns they needed then, man, listen, they have drones now. So our understanding have to become sophisticated as well. Our knowledge has to become sophisticated as well. They're not using the machetes and musket guns. So our verbiage also have to change. We can't be using the same verbal archery that we did back then, because everything is about that steady elevation, So he say, start feeding, as we say, our ori with truth, feed our ori with discipline, as well as this spiritual remembering that we chose this destiny. So the many forces that had conspired against them, they began to fall one after the other. All these things that when these people come, when things happen around us, to be in that spiritual mindset, to be spiritual elevated, it don't touch us socially. It don't touch us socially. So we no longer just saying, okay, oh yeah, we more spiritual, sophisticated, so we're gonna put up with this. Nah, we're gonna make it manifest in our lives. And that's what Orisha Okay brings to the table, the spirit of elevation, this spiritual force that represent that elevation. So this was one of the reasons. This was how Okay turned the conspiracies, the naysayers, those who thought that he was less than of his enemies, to victory over everyone. So if we don't remember anything else, we have to relate our spiritual significance, our spiritual understanding to our social abundance. There's no separation. People will try to separate, but guess what? Your abundance is not everybody else's abundance. You can't go and look at no one. We done been to Nigeria. We done been to Cuba. We done been places where we see people where you can say these people not living in abundance, these people not doing this. But listen, their abundance, not your abundance. But just like you can go somewhere and find someone that maybe not doing what you think, you're gonna find many more that is doing much more than what you believe and having much more prosperity and abundance than what you believe. And that is anywhere. So when we speak about spiritually, being spiritually abundant, we have to connect it to the social level. And it's a process of steady elevation. But the foundation is understanding that there's a connection. Because once we connect it, then the rest going to fall right in place. The rest is going to manifest, and they're going to manifest every day. It may start from the ground, but eventually it will become that mountain. So anything, these false things that happen around us, we have to understand that we are bigger than ours. So as we close, let us remember Ìrẹtè Alájé. And when we look at this Odu, no matter how much many forces rise against us, it doesn't matter what someone may think that we are less than, that our destiny will always have the last say when we have structure, when we have order, when we have sacrifice, when we have alignment, when we move within that prosperous mindset. We have to maintain that prosperous mindset. And with that prosperous mindset, it tells us that regardless that we're not second class, we're not inferior, is no one privileged. If anyone is privileged, we privileged. We right there in the midst of it all. Because guess what? That's what Ifa brings. Ifa brings prosperity. Ifa brings abundance. Ifa brings the rainbow boat. Ifa brings all good things that this world has. So we have to connect that with the two. And at first it starts off by step, that understanding that the connection is a relationship. Ashe. So like always, we Rumala, Iba Rumala, Ajana, Okorin, Kukuru, Okeokite. We salute Eshu, the Stone Bearer, the Risha Avenger, the Great Fighter, the dark-skinned man on the outside, the smallest Baba. Eshu, we salute you. Eshu Kuryoko, Eshu Tarisha, Alabaku, Alabara, Omikron Durita, Omikron Ilofi, Baba Kikure, Ule Shunshun Sori, SLSA J. We salute you, Eshu, Gegele. If death is coming, please place us on top to overcome it. If affliction, contention, or loss, if it is coming, please place us on top to overcome it. If any negative forces is coming, please place us on top to overcome it. Self-doubt, insecurities. If all these things is coming, please place us on top to overcome it. But if abundance, prosperity, I cool, long life, a compatible spouse, productive children. If all these things is coming, please carry us there to claim our blessings. The day we see EB, the day we see any forms of negativity, is the day it would disappear. The day we see E-Ray, the day we see AJ, the day we see a prosperity, the day we see abundance is the day it will be accepted. Ojori bini biwole, ajori reni re de, eshatable, rootable, acceptable, eriwa tushe. I say, be. Olokun abiomo re olokun abiomo jidi. Iyami olokun. Abiomo re. Iyami olokun. Abiomojidi. Iyami olokun. Abiomorere. Iyami olokun. Iyami olokun. Abiomojidi. So blessings, everyone. I'm glad we was able to get on with everyone's success, long life, and abundance. And let's remember, that's keep that social abundance as well. Everything that connects in the spiritual, make it connects in the social, how we walk, how we deal with people, and prosperity. Ifa brings prosperity. Ifa bring abundance. And it all start off with having that prosperous mindset. Ashe wa, Ashe Olodumare, Adabo, Adabo, Adabo.